Well, good evening. I hereby call to order the regular meeting of the Boca Raton City Council. Today's February 13th, 2018, and the time is 6:04 p.m. And our first order of business will be our invocation, and I'd like to ask Councilmember O'Rourke to lead us.
Thank you. We are grateful for our wonderful city of Boca Raton and the community we have created. We are grateful for our freedom, health, and safety. We deeply thank those who put their lives on the line to protect us every day. Let us have the ability to work together for an even more united community, and let us have the wisdom and knowledge as we conduct the affairs of our beloved city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome everyone. Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Haney.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rogers.
Here.
Councilmember O'Rourke.
Here.
Councilmember Singer.
Here.
Councilmember Weinroth.
Here.
You are all present.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to amendments to the agenda. Deputy Mayor Rogers.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to move that we take items 14A and 14B, ordinances number 5444 and 5445 off the agenda and probably postpone them, I don't know, to a time certain, indefinitely.
Let's just delete them. Okay.
Just delete them.
Okay.
And for the audience, that's the Hidden Valley Boca Royal proposal. The applicant said they want to meet with the residents nearby first, and they are not ready to be here today. So if anyone who's here for that, you're welcome to stay, but the applicant's not here.
Do we
All
know
right.
the date of that meeting with the residents?
Are you asking about the residents' meeting, Mr. O'Rourke?
Yeah.
Yes, Saturday, February 24th, 10 a.m. at the Embassy Suites on Yamato Road, they have advertised. And it is not a city event. I'm just sharing the information for the benefit of the residents.
All right, so we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Rogers. I'll second to delete ordinance 5444 and ordinance 5445 from our agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you. Are there any further amendments to our agenda? Nope, seeing none, that'll conclude that. So we'll move directly to our minutes. Members, before us, we have the minutes of the regular workshop meeting of January 22nd, 2018, and the minutes of the regular meeting of January 23rd, 2018. Are there any corrections or additions? Seeing none, I'll entertain. Moved by Weinroth, second by
Second the minutes.
Rogers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you very much. We have no proclamations or presentations tonight. So we'll move directly to our board appointments, and we have several. Before we begin, I'm going to ask if there's any member of the public who wishes to comment on any board appointment. Seeing no one come forward, we'll move to our first board, which is Art in Public Places Advisory Board. I would invite anyone who did not have an opportunity to interview yesterday to please come forward, give us your name and address, and some brief comments as to why you'd like to serve. And we will welcome Mr. Lipman.
Thank you. Yes, Irvin Lipman. I am the Executive Director of the Boca Raton Museum of Art, and I reside at 921 Osceola Drive here in Boca Raton. I'm so glad that you've taken the initiative to establish this committee. I think as Boca Raton becomes more pedestrian friendly, artwork placed in public places becomes more important than ever. I firmly believe that we have a wonderful ocean that is a trademark for our city and is a gathering place that we should never take for granted. And I would like to think of how can we create that same kind of joy and surprise throughout the city in our public places that we get at the ocean side, and that I think is the challenge that we have before us for the Public Art Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Lipman. Members, any questions for Mr. Lipman? No? Thank
Okay.
you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming
I would just
forward.
say thank you for helping us kind of
My
work
pleasure.
through this.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Gentili.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Emily Gentili, 2657 North Ocean Boulevard, Boca Raton, Florida. I have had the opportunity to serve the city of Boca Raton for many number of years now. I've served on the Historic Preservation. I have served as chair of the Business Improvement District Steering Committee, and I've served as vice chair of the Downtown Advisory. I've also had the honor to have worked with Art in Public Places in Palm Beach County. I have worked on Veterans Park in Del Rey. I have also worked on the airport displays of art in West Palm Beach, and I have worked with West Palm Beach when they did their juried selections. While serving as vice chair of the Downtown Advisory, I had the opportunity to introduce the idea of art in public places to the city and to the committee. It was a golden opportunity, and the committee received it so graciously and openly, and really believed that we needed to push this forward. Mayor Haney was there, Council Member O'Rourke was there, Council Member Singer was there, and Irv Lippman and a representative from FAU as well. So I'm so happy to see that we are ready to move forward, and I would very much like to be a part of what was started at the Downtown Advisory level and now that has moved forward. I have been an artist all of my life. I just recently showed my work at the Yacht and Racket Club community art show. The guild there has 140 members. I am their public relations director, and I was actually able to sell some work, which is also a very good thing. I've shown my work throughout South Florida in libraries. I've had the privilege of showing in the Coral Springs Museum of Art. And I'm very familiar with art as it is. I've implemented cultural boards in local cities where we've had art shows, art classes, different venues for different opportunities to bring art and culture to the community. I have extensive experience in juried art. I've developed business plans, and I've contributed to ordinances. I've obtained grants for art. I've organized sponsorship opportunities, and I've organized fundraising as well. And I would just like to leave you with this thought. Public art is so significant within the art world. It inspires community involvement and collaboration, creatively engaging a community's sense of place or well-being in society. As the arts may be a barometer of world culture, so too is public art can be an indicator of a community's culture. And I look very forward to serving on this board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Gentili. Members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Spencer Ann Krebsbach. I'm new to Boca. I moved here in May to work for the Lomnitzer Law Firm, also in Boca. I reside at 21301 Town Lakes Drive. My practice as a lawyer is entertainment and intellectual property law. In addition, I've been a lifelong devotee and passionate supporter of arts and culture. I wish my talents lied in visual art at all, past the macaroni necklace in kindergarten. I'm more of a performing artist as my spare time hobby. But I am looking for a way to be involved in my new community of Boca Raton. I'm looking for something that my passion for the arts lends itself to, and also my experience with policy, procedure, the law, intellectual property, writing, things of that nature. So I look forward to getting involved. I hope this may be my first step, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kresbeck. Members, any questions? No, thank you so much. We appreciate you wanting to get involved. Welcome, Ms. Doyle.
Hi, my name is Andrea Doyle. I reside at 511 K Terrace. I've been a resident of Boca Raton for 43 years. I love this opportunity that you've presented. I think it's very important. I'm passionate about the arts. I work for an arts organization for the last, 10 years. So I've served the community, really striving to bring quality arts to this area. I represent the field of dance. Most of you know I work for Boca Ballet Theater. And I think this is an important component of the direction we're trying to bring the city as a world-class city, and I would love to have the opportunity to work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carly Gordon. I reside at 2760 Northwest 26th Street, and yes, I'm old enough to be here. I grew up in Boca. I'm from here. My whole family lives here. I was part of the first class of 6th graders to enter Don Estridge Middle School when they opened. So I have roots here, and after being away for 6 years in much colder places for college and grad school, I'm very glad to be back in the sunshine, performing now as an oboist with the Florida Grand Opera and Palm Beach Symphony Orchestras. As a classical musician, and especially as a young classical musician in a field that often has a perception of being a little bit old-fashioned, I've often been tasked with finding new, innovative ways to present music to an audience, and to just really welcome the public and make our art accessible to them, performing at elementary schools, nursing homes, libraries, and really weaving music and art into the community fabric. So that's where my passion lies and my interest in participating in this board, which is just such an important initiative to bring beauty and conversation to our community. Something that I'm very passionate about and interested in bringing to the table is making sure that, since this is a brand new advisory board, that as this project gets rolling, having fair representation of women artists and artists of color in commissioned and purchased works. It's just our city is a diverse one, and it's important that all those voices and perspectives be represented among the artworks that we support, to just really make this a very engaged community project. I'll go out on a limb and assume that I'm one of the younger applicants for this position. And I think it's really important for young people to be involved in the civic process and have their voices be heard. And I hope that if I am appointed to this board, that I can inspire other young voters and citizens to just engage with our city and our community and advocate for what they care about. And I care about art. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gordon. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Pat Molino, and I'm new to Boca, relatively new anyway, about 4 years we've been here, and I reside at 6158 Northwest 23rd Street in the Santa Barbara community. I am a business consultant. I have been most of my life, and I am retired from some major corporations. Art has always been a part of my life. My consulting business is in public affairs, so it is very close to government. I have worked with governments in Washington and also in New York and New Jersey. But my personal interest has always been art. My dad was a painter, so I learned when I was a small child, but although I studied art, I did not go into that field. At this point in my life, I think it brings together, to work on this committee would bring together two very important interests: my interest in giving back to the community I now live in, as well as my interest in art. So I think art can lift up our community, it can seal wounds, it can bring people a new spirit. I think all of those things are what we're looking for, and this is a fabulous town in which to do this because we already have such a great town. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Ms. Molina. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome.
Hi, good to see all of you. My name is Amber Tollefson. I'm a Boca Raton native. I reside at 101 Southwest 6th Terrace here in East Boca. I gravitated back to our adorable little town since I have a special place in my heart for it. Grew up on these soccer fields, softball fields here, came back and started a nonprofit where we collect soccer gear and conduct clinics at local foster homes. Also started a co-working space called the Flamingo House in East Boca. It's a very collaborative space. We have artists and such like that. Over the years, I've seen Wynwood and Fort Lauderdale really take flight, and just research how public art can really galvanize communities, and basically talk to some of those leaders who made that happen and ask them what were the points of success, how did they make this successful, what was their vision. So did some research on that, and I just really believe that feel like I have a strong pulse of the city and would love to help tell this story. My background's video and branding. Would love to be a part of this opportunity and just really help infuse art into our beautiful little city.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming forward. Is there anyone else who would like to interview for Art in Public Places Advisory Board? Seeing no one else come forward, what a great group of applicants. We're going to choose 7. We invite everyone to be involved in the process. Even if you're not chosen to be on the board, the meetings will be open and advertised, and I think it's really important that we all stay connected. So at this time, members, I will open the floor for nominations.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to make a motion that we nominate all of the applicants and then let the members up here vote on which ones they want out of the full slate.
Okay. Is there any objection to that? No, that's fine. That makes it a little easier. So at this time, since all have been nominated, when Ms. Saxton calls your name, please state your 7 choices. Ms. Saxton.
Well, we'll start with Mr. Weinroth.
Okay. Gentili, Ginsler, Gordon, Lippman, Sponder, Levin, Doyle, and Kreschbach.
Singer.
1 second, please.
Okay. Haney?
No,
Oh, you want me to come back to you?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Anderson, Dare, Gentili, Hofberger, Lippman, Tollefson, and Doyle.
Ms. Haney?
Anderson, Gentili, Hofberger, Lippman, Sponder-Levin, Tolferson, Doyle.
Mr. Rogers?
Doyle, Tollefson, Sponder-Levin, Lippman, Gordon, Gentile, Anderson.
And Ms. O'Rourke?
Anderson, Gentili, Lippman, Sponder-Levin, Tollefson, Tooby, and Doyle.
A moment, please. Okay. Ms. Doyle and Mr. Lippman both received 5 votes. Ms. Tollefson, Ms. Sponder-Levin, Ms. Gentili, and Ms. Anderson each received 4 votes. No one has received 3 votes, but 3 people have received 2 votes and others just 1 and some 0. So the first 6 are appointed and we will...
Miss Saxton?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I have a different count.
You do?
Maybe I was doing it differently.
Okay.
I only saw 1 of the applicants with 2 votes.
I have Gordon and Hofberger with 2.
Yes.
I
I
have
just had Hofberger with 2.
Ginsler.
Yeah, and Gordon. Gordon also had 2.
Gordon, 2. All
I
right,
had
didn't
5
see
for
that one.
Gentili, not 4, but.
Okay.
I have, yes.
Oh,
She'd
did
still,
I-
yeah,
did
I
I-
think it was 5 for Gentili.
It was
But
5.
you still have 6. You were correct in your total
You
count.
still need 1 more.
Right, you still need 1 more. Do you want to announce the 6?
Yes. The 6 with 4 or 5 votes. Ms. Anderson, Ms. Gentili, Mr. Lippman, Ms. Sponder-Levin, and Ms. Tollefson, and finally Ms. Doyle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if I have the wrong count for
No, you
the
need
others.
another motion. The rest are
Okay.
correct.
But
There was
Well, if
nobody
Gordon and
else.
Hofberger have 2 each, then I guess we have a runoff on those 2.
Yeah, I had Ginsler also had 2, but obviously I must have missed that.
All right, so
Would you like to?
who are our vote getters? Our
For
next
2, I had Ginsler. Apparently I've made an error there. Gordon and Hofberger.
So it's between Miss Gordon and Miss Hofberger?
If,
We can put Gensler in, it doesn't matter.
yeah, just, why don't we just?
And
I don't
include
know
Miss
whose
Ginsler as
mistake
well.
it was, sorry.
All right, so we
Is it
have
yours?
Miss Ginsler, Miss Gordon, and Miss Hofberger. Oh,
And
okay, so
what do we do?
the city attorney is suggesting that anyone that received a vote be
Oh,
in the
okay.
running this
Okay.
for the second time around.
Okay, that would be, include then Ms. Dare, Ms. Krebsbach, and Ms. Tooby.
Okay,
And Ginsler, which I adore, yes, and Ginsler.
okay.
So it's Dare, Ginsler, Gordon, Hofberger, Krebsbach, Tooby.
Okay, so when Miss Saxton calls your name, choose one of those that were named.
Mr. Rogers,
Gordon?
Mr. Singer,
Hofberger.
Ms. O'Rourke,
Tubi.
Ms. Haney,
Hofberger.
and Mr. Weinroth.
Kresbach.
Ms. Hofberger received 2 votes, and Ms. Gordon 1, Ms. Krebsbach 1, and Ms. Tooby 1. Therefore, the 7th member will be,
No.
You need a minimum of 3 votes.
Oh.
Two doesn't pass.
2 doesn't work.
No.
Okay.
Unfortunate.
All right, members.
Would we entertain a motion to appoint Ms. Hofberger, because we got 2 and she's ahead
So
of
moved.
everyone?
Okay, so we have a
So moved.
motion, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Ms. Hofberger for the 7th member state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, great. Well, congratulations, everyone, and thank you
Ms.
all so much
Mayor,
for
can I
being
make
Chair?
a comment?
Mr. Singer.
We have another difficulty, though, our challenge. We have 4-year seats, or 2-year seats and 1-year seats. So I'm going to suggest that if there were 4 people, I hope there were just 4 people who got the tied for the most number of votes, that those get the 2-year seats and everyone else get the 1-year seat. But Ms. Saxton can correct me if we got,
The highest vote getters will get the 2-year seats, and then everyone else will get the 1-year seat.
but do we have
one
exactly
extra.
4 that qualify?
We have-
I'm sorry, you had 3 with 5 votes.
3.
All right, we'll put
Well,
them
there's-
all in the
Yeah.
Well, then
2-year.
they all
So
get the
3 with
2-year
5 votes
seats.
were Gentili, Lippman, and Sponder-Levin.
Then they get the 2-year seats. and
Wait,
everyone-
I'm sorry, I said that wrong.
No.
Gentili, Lippman, and Doyle were the ones that had 5 originally.
All right, well, congratulations. You get the 2-year seats, and the other appointees get the 1-year seat.
Well, no,
You
there
need
was,
one more.
no, we have to pick another to fill the seat. We have
Then
2,
there are 2 4s. Those
unless we
would
just
be
make it a
Oh,
1-year
I'm
seat.
sorry, I'm looking
Yeah.
at the wrong.
Sponder, Levin, and Tollefson got
Yeah.
4 votes, and Anderson and also got 4 votes. So 3 that got 4 votes, if this one's 5.
I move to appoint Ms. Anderson to the 4-year seat. I mean,
Second.
to the 2-year seat.
Second.
Fine.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of appointing Peg Anderson to the 2-year seat, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a comment.
Here, Miss-
I just want to say that, we do a lot of hard work up here, legislating and enforcing policy, and, this is just, makes my heart sing. I came on the city council, and one of my highest hopes was to bring public art to our community, and it's happened, and it's happened quickly, and I'm so grateful. And we had such wonderful applicants, and I want to reiterate, please, if you applied and you didn't get on this board, go to meetings. Your input will still be welcome, and then openings come along. So I think this board will be in place for a long time. Things change. So, I'm looking forward to working with you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We will now move to the Builders Board of Adjustment and Appeals. We have no applicants, so we'll move directly to the Business Improvement District Steering Committee. I believe all the applicants interviewed yesterday. Is there anyone that did not have a chance to interview yesterday for the Business Improvement District Steering Committee? Seeing no one come forward, members, we have 6 applicants and 5 vacancies.
Madam Chair, I'm going to move to reappoint the 3 members that are currently on, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Saar, and Mr. Gerlich.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? You want to go ahead and dispose of the incumbents? Okay. All those in favor of reappointing the 3 incumbents, Ms. Anderson, Ms. Zara, and Mr. Garlick, please state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay. So we have 2 more members out of Mr. Popper, Mr. Vanderploeg, and Mr. Walkman. So I move to put all 3 of those on the table. And if there's no objection, then when Ms. Saxton calls your name, please choose 2.
Mr. Singer,
Vanderploeg and Walkman.
Mr. Weinroth,
Vanderploeg and Popper.
Ms. O'Rourke,
Walkman and Popper.
Ms. Haney,
Vanderploeg and Walkman.
and Mr. Rogers.
Walkman and Vanderploeg.
In the voting, Mr. Walkman and Mr. Vanderploeg each received 4 votes, and Mr. Popper 2. Therefore, Mr. Vanderploeg and Mr. Walkman are appointed.
Great. Thanks so much for all your hard work, and we appreciate everyone that came forward. We will now move to the Education Task Force. And at this time, I'd like to invite anyone who did not have the opportunity to interview yesterday to please line up along the wall there and prepare to come forward, give us your name and address, and some brief comments as to why you would like to serve.
And Madam Chair, if I may.
Okay, after you.
Mr. Singer.
Thank you. I asked this of all the applicants yesterday, and I just said we are overwhelmed. We rarely get more than 100% of applicants for various boards, and we have, I think, now 23 for a 7-person board. I'd mentioned to my colleagues maybe we have an idea of 2 sets of boards. I will suggest something at the end of that. Maybe I'll just suggest it now, but maybe one with, because I see there's roughly 7 and 9 educators who are specifically have teaching background, principal background. Maybe a board with them or a subcommittee with them, and then another board focused on parents and other residents. And obviously, educators are parents and residents too. But I didn't know if that might be a way to get 2 different schools of input and also more people to participate. But as I'm mentioning this, every applicant, if you could, please just tell us, what you think are the most pressing issues facing the city and what you think the task force should be most focused on, because this is a new body. We've outlined some parameters, but it's going to be, I think, defined in large part by what you all do.
Mr. Weinroth.
I understand Mr. Singer's thoughts here. I just think that changing and making 2 boards at this point might be a little bit clumsy. I think we should continue with what we're doing now with trying to get 7 for this board, with the idea that maybe we go ahead at our next meeting and address the idea of a secondary board, so that people who are interested would also be able to apply. So I think changing the rules after it's been advertised might be a little clumsy at this point.
Okay. Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would be hesitant to segregate 2 boards by the roles. I think there's strength that comes from having them mixed. And I think there probably is a need to bring the board back. So I would continue with the task force. Very focused mission, task at hand, and I think we've seen a need for probably an ongoing board down the line. But I'm okay with continuing for tonight. And please, if you don't get on the board, you could really do more not on the board in some ways than you can when you're on the board. You could talk to everyone if you're not on the board. If you're on the board, sunshine applies, and you can't talk to anyone else who's on the board. So if you do not get on the board, please attend, and you could participate just as much. Your voice will be heard.
Thank you. And please also, as you provide your comments, if you are an employee of the Palm Beach County School District, would you please disclose that and discuss how you will navigate that influence on your service to this board. So with all that, please come forward if you're still interested. Give us your name and address and some brief comments.
My name is Anne Marie Dilbert. I live at 655 Northeast Trist Lane in Boca Raton. First of all, I am an educator. I do work for Palm Beach County School District, and I will say that I will play this video tomorrow because my students ask me all the time, why do we have to learn this math? It doesn't mean anything. And watching you tally is going to be the greatest experience for my students tomorrow. So, and we all make mistakes, and they need to see that too. So it was just a great opportunity to apply some real world knowledge with my students for tomorrow. So I am currently the principal at Cross Point Elementary in Boynton Beach, Florida. I am also the former chair of the Boca Raton Education Advisory Board, before that dismantled. I started my career 23 years ago in Staten Island, New York, and I moved to beautiful Boca Raton 15 years ago as a result of 9/11. My husband is a 9/11 hero. He's a retired SWAT detective of the New York City Elite Emergency Service Division and is currently a police captain also for the school district of Palm Beach County. We have 4 beautiful grown children, Christian, Charlie, Alyssa, and Austin. 3 of them have gone through the Boca Raton schools, Calusa Elementary, Don Estridge, Spanish River, and Boca Raton High School. I graduated the College of Staten Island with a Bachelor of Arts, St. John's University, good basketball right now, with a Master of Science in Education, Nova Southeastern with an educational specialist degree, and I'm currently enrolled in a doctoral program and will be graduating in June. I started my career as a teacher here at Calusa Elementary, and I worked through many leadership roles. I've worked with only in Area 1, which Area 1 does include Boca Raton. I've seen tons of changes in education federally. Some things that I don't necessarily agree with. I think a lot of the legislation and legislators really need to hear from the people that are right on the ground before some of those decisions are made, because they do impact what we see as our future. I'm also a member of Boca Raton's Promise and the Action Alliance here, and a member of the Delray Kids and Cops, because where my school is in Boynton, we feed into both Delray and Boynton. Some of my goals are to bring this great community together with our schools. I feel like there is a huge disconnect, and we have so much here to offer. In my current position that I'm in right now, it is a very struggling school, 94% free and reduced lunch, which cannot survive without the community. But there are so many opportunities here in Boca that I feel like as educators they do not take advantage of. Maybe they don't know about it, but there needs to be that person that can maybe be the liaison to bring all of the beautiful things that we have here in Boca back into the classrooms. And not only like class trips, but some businesses can partner and bring in all these great experiences for our students. Overcrowding is obviously, to me, the #1 issue that is happening right here in Boca. I mean, you know what, that's a great problem to have. Everybody wants to live here. But how do we move all of our students, into, and Calusa being one of them, into one building? And it's a phenomenal school. My kids did attend that school. So I love that we now have a new school that will be coming over by Don Estridge, if that all follows through, so that, we will have, again, our own school here in the city. Another change I think we need to look at too is some of our boundaries, because some of our sitting schools in Boca we do feed into other cities. So those are some of the changes that I see are really pressing right now. Education is definitely the future. We need to definitely all come together and work together. The society has also changed, and so a lot of these students, teachers, and the world around them becomes their family. And so we need to develop the children right here in Boca Raton, show them what's out there, teach them everything that they can possibly learn, not only just in the classroom, but outside here, so that we can grow great, productive citizens, just like the little girl that was here from Don Estridge, and bring them right back here, to again pay it forward and offer their contributions to society. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for Ms. Dilbert? No. Thank you so much. We appreciate you applying.
Good evening, y'all. My name is Tom Berger. I live at 4266 Northwest 66th Place in Boca Raton. I moved to Boca Raton when I was 8 years old, meaning my parents moved me here. I've been here for 44 years, except for 7 years of college and law school. I am a lawyer. I apologize for that. I went through 5th grade in Boca Raton schools, and then my parents decided it was time, because of the status of the schools at that time, to move me to a private school in Fort Lauderdale. That was a difficult situation. That is something that I don't believe should happen to any of our children today. And because of that, when I moved back to Boca, but I couldn't afford living in Boca itself, so I had to move out west of Military Trail is what I always thought was where Boca ended. And I moved out to West Boca, and I became a member of the West Boca Community Council. There I served for 7 or so years, I believe, and I was one of my subcommittees was education and talking to the parents regarding what needed to be done at the schools and how we can make our schools better and how we can interact with the schools in a different way. The liaison that she was just talking about is absolutely correct, and what we need is the ability to talk to people at the school board level and at the lower levels regarding what is needed and necessary for the schools. I don't remember how many years, but I've also been on the Construction Oversight Review Committee for Palm Beach County Schools. It's also an advisory committee. That committee essentially looks at the construction of schools. It deals with boundaries. It deals with maintenance. It deals with the internal things that are put into the schools, such as computers and such. And over the years, I found that West Boca at the time when I was concerned about them, and East Boca that I'm concerned about them also, I have found that those areas don't get everything that other schools get because of the theory that the parents can handle a lot of things. In some respects, they are correct. In some respects, they're absolutely wrong, and that's the type of thing that I understand, that I can bring, that I can be forceful with. I am on Cork. I do believe that creates a conflict. I would much rather be on this advisory committee than on Cork, and so if I were appointed, I would withdraw from Cork. I believe that covers everything I wanted to tell y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berger. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome.
Hello, good evening. My name is Anna Owens. I live at 231 Northwest 10th Street, right here in Spanish Village. I've lived there for about 2.5 years, but I've lived in Boca Raton for 14 years. So I have worked for the county of the school county of Palm Beach. I've been a school counselor for the last 5 years, and I recently just resigned to focus on my PhD. So I think as a school counselor, I have a unique perspective in education. For instance, I have a good friend who's a teacher at Boca High. So he is what they call kind of like a floater classroom. So because these classes have been so overpopulated, he doesn't even have a designated place to have his own classroom. So that definitely affects the students. Moving forward, I know that overdevelopment is causing this overcrowding in the schools. So I hope that I can be a part of this committee and bring something kind of different to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome, Mr. Zeichman.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Tommy Zeichman, 683 Southwest 2nd Street, Boca Raton, Florida. My wife and I live and work here in Boca Raton, and I'm applying for the Education Task Force because I believe in its mission to provide focused and prompt recommendations to the Council regarding our city's education capacity, our status, and our needs. The deadlines set forth in the ordinance to have an initial meeting, to put forth a work plan, and to provide a report, they reflect the urgency of this issue, and that's why I'm interested in this task force. Education is a pressing topic in my home because I have a daughter who's going to attend Addison Meisner, wherever that's located. And my wife is a local high school teacher. She does work at she works at Boca High, and I think we'd navigate that issue in the same way that we handle my issues as an attorney. We just don't talk about it at home. Recently, I was pushing my daughter on the swings at Pine Breeze Park, and another father came. His name's Mike. He has twins about the same age as my daughter, and we're pushing on the swings, and he says, "Hey, I recently moved to Palm Beach Farms. I'm so excited for my daughters to attend Addison Meisner." And he has this look on his face. He's so proud. He'd worked really hard. He'd moved in, and he just had this excitement on his face. And I felt kind of bad afterwards because I mentioned to him, "Hey, they're going to rebuild the school. They're still discussing where they're going to build it and where the children will be in the meantime." This was before the recent site, and this look of terror comes across this guy's face. He's a big, tall, strong guy, and you just see this look of terror on his face. And that's the power of this issue, uncertainty in education. And that's why I'm applying. I want to be part of the team that develops the recommendations for the city to address our education capacity needs, so that people like Mike and other members of the community have that pride and that peace restored. I have a passion for education, and I want to use my professional community service experience to make a meaningful contribution to this task force. Professionally, I am an attorney, and I've served as counsel for numerous receivers who are appointed in crisis situations. And in that role, you prepare a status update on what the current operations are, and then you put forth a plan so that they can take action. The applicant pool for this task force is impressive, and it's an example of the talented and committed people we have here in Boca. So I had to think long and hard, what can I add? What different perspective can I provide? And through my service on the city's Financial Advisory Board and Citizen Oversight Committee, I have experience reviewing our city's financial condition, and that provides a different perspective to identify those opportunities. For instance, the space that was recently identified for O5C, that didn't come out of a vacuum. That came through diligence and hard work and looking at our current situation and finding those opportunities. I would strive to provide a similar perspective as a member of this task force. Additionally, I watched a recent interview with school board member Barbieri. It was on the Boca Voice, and he discussed that there was a possible need for the city to share a portion of its sales tax revenue to go towards the infrastructure around these rebuilt schools or these new schools. And that's worth exploring and looking into. And that, I think it also goes to that the budget and the capital improvement factor should be considered as part of this task force so that you have real solutions. A budget is a book like many others because, while it has numbers, a lot more numbers than other books, it tells us where we've been, where we are, and our priorities going forward. And that's why I'd like to use my experience on the FAB and COC to provide useful recommendations for the council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Zeichman. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Marty Freund. I live at 3910 Northwest 27th Terrace. This is my first city council meeting, probably because I have 3 small children. My oldest is 5, so he is going to start in the public school system next year. So I'm here because I have a real concern about what's going on in our city. I was brought up in the public school system. My husband was as well. Not in Boca, but we were both educated at public schools. We firmly believe that our children will get the best education out of public school for a variety of reasons. So we are committed to making sure that our children are sent to public school. And with that being said, there's a lot of concerns about the overcrowded schools, the condition that the schools are in, and a variety of other factors, which everybody reads the papers about. I don't think we need to go through them. At the very least, I hope that this committee, whoever's chosen, will really focus on communication to parents. If you could see some of my Google searches, ready to send my child into kindergarten. I mean, there's so many options in Boca, and I just don't think that they're communicated as best as they could be, whether that be through mailings, online posts. I think that we have the opportunity to give our kids a great education here, and I look forward to sending my kids to the schools, but I would like to address the concerns that I think a lot of parents have here.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else present who would like to interview for the Education Task Force? Members, I'll just point out, and for the public, that Yvette Drucker is one of our applicants. She unfortunately was ill and couldn't be here this evening, but she did provide the council with a letter outlining her involvement in our local schools. So members, we have 23 applicants. Again, let's waive the nominating process. We have 7 vacancies. So when Ms. Saxton calls your name, you will choose 7.
Haney.
Berger, Drucker, Jenkins, Rogers, Siegel, Thompson, Zeichman.
O'Rourke.
Dilbert, Owens, Moyer Pesso, Rogers, Siegel, Thompson, and Zeichman.
Weinroth.
Bremer, Drucker, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Bremer, Drucker, Siegel, Thompson, Zeichman.
Wasn't enough, was it?
Do I
Keep
get-
going.
I got one more?
Two more.
Two more if you
Two
want.
more. Okay. All right. Rogers, I did Rogers already.
Yes.
I'm going to give him a second vote.
Actually,
You didn't.
you
No, you
didn't
didn't
do
do
I
Rogers.
didn't? All right,
No.
I meant to, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
so
Mayor
Rogers is
Rogers
one more.
and Michelle Levy.
Mr. Rogers?
Dilbert, Drucker, Owens, Rogers, Siegel, Zeichman, and Thompson.
Who was the last one, please?
Me. Singer.
Thompson.
Oh,
No.
Sorry, I thought you meant like who's
So-
it
was
to go.
Zeichman? That's the, okay. But you.
You're not on the list,
thank you.
Mr. Singer.
I don't
sorry.
want it. That's okay.
Rogers is on the list, but Singer's not.
That's what confused us.
Okay, Mr. Singer.
All righty. I'll try to go in order here. All right. And I just want to say, we've had such an array of applicants. I'm trying, these choices are not a reflection on everyone. I try to pick someone who, candidates who had a lot of different skill sets, whether administrator, past PTA or current PTA member, parent, and all of the above. So no reflection on anyone. This is one of the more challenging things. I'd love everyone to be able to participate. But I will vote for Dilbert, Drucker, Freund, Jenkins, Thompson, Zeichman. I missed one. Rogers.
Okay. Mr. Zeichman, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Rogers each received 5 votes. Ms. Siegel and Ms. Drucker received 4. And Ms. Dilbert received 3. And that's 6. So they will be appointed. For the 7th one, we're doing all the people who received votes. Am I correct? However they want.
What about the ones who received 2? Because I think there were
I'm going to
3.
go through the 2s and the 1s for you, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, yeah. Ms. Owens, Ms. Jenkins each received 2. Mr. Berger, Ms. Bremer, Ms. Freund, Ms. Levy, and Ms. Moyer Pesso received 1. Would you have 2 for Jenkins? Okay.
Owens and Jenkins each have 2.
Yes. And we need 1 more.
Between Owens and Jenkins, yeah.
So do you want to do a vote again?
Yes. So when Ms. Saxton calls your names, choose either Ms. Jenkins or Ms. Owens.
Mr. Singer,
Jenkins.
Mr. Rogers,
Owens.
Mr. Weinroth,
Jenkins.
Ms. Haney,
Jenkins.
and Ms. O'Rourke.
Owens.
Ms. Jenkins received 3 votes, Ms. Owens 2 votes, therefore Ms. Jenkins is appointed.
Great. And thank you all so very much for coming out, please. Those of you that did not get appointed, please stay involved. And as Mr. Singer outlined, perhaps we'll have further discussion on the council whether to create a secondary board to make sure that everyone has a voice. So thank you all so much for caring so much about education within our community. It really means a lot to us. We will now move to the Green Living Task Force. And I'd like to invite anyone who has applied to please come forward, give us your name and address, and some brief comments as to why you'd like to serve. Welcome, Mr. Hatch. Wonderful.
All right, Mayor and Council, thank you for your time, energy, and effort into making our city what it is today. My name is Derek Hatch, resident of 2175 Park Place in Boca Raton. And when I saw the Committee for Green Living, one of the things that really struck me was the beautiful places that Boca Raton exemplifies in our environment of outdoor green living. Such contributions have been made, both private and public, to allow us to enjoy these the beautiful surroundings that we have. One of the things that I thought was really unique was that as human beings, we spend the majority of our lives indoors. And so one of the things that I wanted to bring to the committee was a different perspective. I work for Siemens Building Technologies and have worked for numerous other building technology companies throughout the past and throughout my work history. And in so doing, have the ability to promote healthy living and sustainable living practices through building technology. And as a member of this committee, I would hope to be able to help raise awareness to issues that would allow for a more sustainable green living approach to our entire life. Not just the outdoors, but also the indoors as well. As a father of 4 children, the oldest is 8, I've got a lot of interest in promoting the outdoor activities. And so being able to have the influence and ability to raise awareness of getting our younger children off the devices and outdoors, to the parks, to the beaches, to the just anything, to be able to enjoy the environment and sway away from the wave of technology that has come our way, to be able to have influence over our community, to be able to promote this healthy living lifestyle, something that I would find very honorable and would love to contribute my skills and talents to doing so. And with that, I leave it open to any questions that you may have. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Members, any questions of Mr. Hatch? No, thank you so much. And you must be busy with 4 small children.
Gray hair, keep
Yeah.
you busy.
Thank you so much for applying. Is there anyone else present who would like to come forward and interview for the Green Living Advisory Board? Seeing no one come forward, members, we have 1 vacancy and 2 applicants. What's your pleasure?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Rogers.
I'll move that we appoint Mr. Hatch.
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Any further nominations? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to appoint Derek Hatch to the Green Living Advisory Board. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Congratulations. We look forward to your service. That concludes our advisory board appointments for this evening, so we'll move directly to responses to workshop information requests. Mr. Arnell.
Thank you, Chairman. We had no items for follow-up this evening from yesterday's workshop meeting.
Very good. Then we will move directly to the consent agenda. Is there any member who wishes to remove any item from the consent agenda? Nope, seeing no one. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward and comment on any consent agenda item? Seeing no one come forward, members, what's your pleasure?
I move the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wake up over there. All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Weinroth and a second by Deputy Mayor Rogers to approve the consent agenda as presented. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll?
Singer.
Yes.
O'Rourke.
Yes.
Weinroth.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
The motion passes 5 votes to 0.
Thank you very much. We have no items for consideration under quasi-judicial consent agenda, nor do we have any quasi-judicial and related public hearings, so we'll move directly to regular public hearings. At this time, I'll ask the city clerk to read the title of ordinance 5436. I will note that this is the second of 2 public hearings, and we will take a vote on this item tonight. So, Ms. Saxon, please read the title of 5436.
Ordinance 5436, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton amending Chapter 28 zoning code of ordinances, authorizing restaurants as permitted uses in certain business and commercial zoning districts, amending the lists of permitted and conditional uses in the following zoning districts to provide for such restaurant uses. Sections 28742 and 28743, RB1 Motel Business District. Section 28777 and 28778, B1 Local Business District. Sections 28797 and 28798, B2 Community Business District. Sections 28822 and 28823, B3 Central Business District. Sections 28847 and 28848, B4 General Business District. Sections 28872 and 28873, C1 Commercial District, and Sections 28893 and 28894, POI Professional Office and Institutional District. Amending Section 28745 Code of Ordinances to provide for consistent treatment of restaurant uses in the RB1 Motel Business District, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing for codification, providing an effective date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arnell.
Thank you, Chairman, members of council. Ms. Rahman, your senior planner for development services, will make the presentation this evening regarding ordinance 5436. It's your agenda item number 12A.
Welcome, Ms. Rahman.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. For the record, my name is Tomash bin Ahmed, Senior Planner with Development Services. Since the first public hearing, there have been no changes made to the proposed ordinance. If you wish, I can present the information again. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions of staff?
Well,
Mr. Singer.
no questions. Just for anyone watching for the first time here, could we have like a 30-second summary?
Sure. Why don't you just go over a quick what this is, summary of what this ordinance will achieve?
Sure. Currently, per the city's code of ordinances, any restaurant, whether it is a restaurant proposed in an existing structure or a restaurant proposed in a new structure, is required to obtain both site plan approval, which requires approval from the Planning and Zoning Board, and conditional use approval, which is approval from the City Council. So this proposal will streamline the process so that any restaurant that wishes to propose move into an existing structure, that will be approved with a building permit if it is permitted in the zoning district, and any restaurant that wishes to propose a new structure, that will require site plan approval from the Planning and Zoning Board. So essentially, this will streamline the restaurant approval process in the city.
In existing structures?
Exactly.
That have adequate parking?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Singer?
Thank you. No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Members, any further questions of city staff? Seeing none, at this time I'll open the public hearing. Is there any member of the public that would like to come forward and address the council on this matter? Seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing, and at this time I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Weinroth and a second by Mr. Singer to adopt ordinance 5436. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Singer.
Only because we didn't go through, we had a fuller discussion last time, and this is the second hearing, but I want anyone watching this meeting for the first time to understand what this is. Going back, I think, to the late 60s, early 70s, Mr. Brown, was it, that there was a prohibition on a restaurant over 1,000 square feet. Routinely for decades now, these conditional use approvals have been granted, and this is one of the things that staff identified as an opportunity for streamlining, because we are adhering to a code which doesn't seem to reflect the concern back in the 60s that a restaurant, or 70s, that a restaurant of more than 1,000 square feet was something that needed special eyes upon it. And Planning and Zoning voted unanimously to recommend this, and I think it's a good idea, so I will be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
Madam Chair, I would just say this is one of really many improvements that we've been trying to bring along for improving the speed to getting businesses open, supporting small businesses, reducing regulation, and reducing costs for the businesses and restaurants that want to either expand or come here. So it's great.
Yeah, this is a common sense approach to existing structures that have adequate parking, that are just adding restaurants that are in an already approved site plan that's been there for a while. This certainly will streamline and assist, but I think it's a very positive thing, and it's consistent with our desire to, make it a more user-friendly, streamlined process. So, if there's no further discussion, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll on ordinance 5436?
Weinroth,
Yes.
Haney,
Yes.
O'Rourke,
Yes.
Singer,
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Motion passes 5 votes to 0.
Thank you very much. We will now move to a group of ordinances. We're going to have public hearings on items B, C, and D. We're going to conduct them contemporaneously as they are all related. However, we will take a separate vote on each item. So at this time, I would like to
Madam
ask
Mayor?
the city clerk, Ms. O'Rourke.
I have to tell you at this time, before we get into this issue, that in an abundance of caution and with much regret, I will have to recuse myself from this vote for ordinance 5441, 5442, and resolution 15, 2018. And I'd like to explain. Because one of the leading firms that answered to the bond issue for the RFP is a bank that is my husband's employer. It is recommended that I recuse myself until I get a final opinion from the ethics board on this. I've requested this opinion and haven't received I've requested for an opinion, haven't received it back yet. And we will be doing future business. The city does business with Bank of America, and I would like to have this situation settled for once and for all moving forward, so I don't have to worry about it each time. I feel very confident knowing that we personally would not benefit from any business we do with Bank of America, but I have to take an abundance of caution here, so I will be leaving.
Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask the city clerk to please read the titles of ordinance 5441, 5442, and resolution 15-2018.
Ordinance 5441, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton amending the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget through the Ocean Breeze Budget Amendment, revising revenues and expenditures in certain budgeted funds, providing for repeal or providing an effective date. Ordinance 5442, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton, Florida, authorizing the issuance of a revenue bond by the city in an amount not exceeding $20 million for the purpose of providing funds to the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District, the district, to acquire the Ocean Breeze property for development of recreational and related facilities for the benefit of the residents of the city and the district, providing for a supplemental resolution setting forth the details of said bond, authorizing specified city employees to negotiate with financial institutions for the purchase of the bond, authorizing the city manager or designee to enter into a rate lock agreement, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date. Resolution 15-2018, a resolution of the City of Boca Raton, Florida, authorizing the issuance of a revenue bond of the City of Boca Raton, Florida, in an aggregate principal amount not exceeding $20 million for the purpose of providing funds to the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District, the district, to acquire the Ocean Breeze property for development of recreational and related facilities for the benefit of the residents of the city and the district, and paying costs of issuance of the bond, awarding the sale of the bond to Raymond James Capital Funding Incorporated, providing for security for the bond, providing other provisions relating to the bond, making certain covenants and agreements in connection therewith, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arnell.
Thank you, Chairman, members of council. Ms. Davidson, your Financial Services Director, and Ms. McGuire, your OMB Director, will be making the presentation tonight regarding Ordinance 5441, Ordinance 5442, and Ordinance 5443. They're your items on the agenda, number 12, B, C, and D.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Ms. McGuire and Ms. Davidson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Sharon McGuire, Budget Director. Ordinance 5441 amends the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget for the Ocean Breeze Budget Amendment. We are recognizing revenues and expenditures in a new fund, the Ocean Breeze Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District Fund of $19,738,500. The fund is established to separate the funding and disbursements for the acquisition of the Ocean Breeze property. We're recognizing $19,150 from bond proceeds and expenditures for the Ocean Breeze land acquisition and $588,500 in revenues from the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District for debt service payments and transfer to the debt service fund. So the debt service fund is recognizing revenues and expenditures of $588,500 for the debt service payments for the Ocean Breeze property and the bond payments for the fiscal year 2018. The grand total of the budget amendment is $20,327,000. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Members, any questions of Ms. McGuire on this matter? Nope. Are you going to go ahead and continue, Ms. Davidson?
I will continue. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Linda Davidson, Financial Services Director. And I'm going to go very briefly over Ordinance 5442 and Resolution 15-2018. Ordinance number 5442 provides for the issuance of an amount not to exceed $20 million in a revenue bond, Series 2018, for the Ocean Breeze property. The city and the Beach and Park District proposed to, and they have executed an interlocal agreement that provides for the terms and provides for the issuance of a city-issued bond for the acquisition of the Ocean Breeze property. And we have gone through in coordination with the city's financial advisor, which is Public Financial Management, Inc., and Weiss, Sirota, Helfman, Cole, and Berman, who are our bond counsel. We have prepared the documents to provide for the issuance, which is this ordinance 5442, in an amount not to exceed $20 million with a term not to exceed 15 years. The city is required as part of this to pledge its non-ad valorem revenues, those are other than property tax dollars, for the repayment of this debt. We established a resolution which authorized the city's financial advisor to prepare and issue a request for proposal for the issuance of a revenue bond. As part of that, PFM received 8 proposals. The 8 proposals included Bank of America, N.A., Capital One Public Funding, LLC, Center State Bank, N.A., Florida Community Bank, N.A., Pinnacle Public Finance, Incorporated, Raymond James Capital Funding, Inc., Sterling National Bank, and TD Bank, N.A. As part of our evaluation, we determined that Raymond James Capital Funding, and that's the resolution 15-2018, that provides for the sale of the bond relating to the issuance of the revenue bond. The proposals that were contained, the most favorable was with Raymond James Capital Funding, Inc. It was for an interest rate of 2.64% for a 15-year term. And I will say that is that's an excellent race based upon market conditions as we move forward. So the ordinance provides for the issuance of the bond, the resolution provides the terms and conditions, and once approved, it's effective 10 days after, and there are a series of actions that are necessary related to the interlocal agreement that the city adopted between the city and the Beach and Park District to effectuate the closing. And so once this is adopted, we will move forward. There's a series of events where the Beach and Park District has to close on the property and their transaction, and then we will provide the funds from the proceeds of the bond. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Davidson. Members, questions of Ms. Davidson on her presentation? No? Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We've been waiting for this for a while. If there's no further questions or discussion amongst the council, at this time I'm going to open the public hearing and invite anyone to come forward and address the city council on this matter. Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you, Council. My name is Steve Haar. I'm at 6100 Northwest 2nd Avenue in Boca Raton. And I'm here just to urge the Council to vote yes on the financing for the purchase of the Ocean Breeze property. Boca Raton, being one of the iconic cities in Florida, has to have a public golf course. And it's not only for Boca Raton residents, but for tourism. I think it'll be a tremendous boon to Boca Raton finances and maintain the green space goals that the city is looking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Har. We appreciate you coming forward. Welcome, Mr. Ernst.
Hello, Craig Ernst, 1500 Parkside Circle South, Boca Raton, also on the Beach and Park District. And I want to thank you for your consideration and the staff's time for putting this together. Certainly, I still consider myself a freshman on the district commission board. And as we evaluated this whole golf course proposal, I'm the first one who had many questions and skeptical nature of it. But I can say that after we've thoroughly went through this, there's a lot of positive benefits that can come from the city with this acquisition, and it's really a partnership. So I look forward to really sharing with you a lot of the meetings that we have coming up, and we're doing a lot of groundwork to kind of prepare and develop it. But we need your input, the community's input, and we need that partnership to really make it something special. And I think it can only help that area substantially. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope everyone will give us the support for it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Ernst. We appreciate the partnership with Beach and Park. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else present who would like to address the City Council on this matter? Welcome, Mr. Collar.
Doug Collar, 5701 Northwest 2nd Avenue, co-president of Boca Chica Unit Owners Association and vice president of Boca Chica Condo 1. Obviously, you know that I support the efforts, and I'm thankful for all the work that everybody's done, staff and council members in the Beach and Parks District. Also feel though that the interlocal agreement was signed. We're committed to buying the golf course, and really the issue that's in front of us tonight is the method of the financing and the bond issue. And as I've stated here before, in the Park District you have a partner and a lending partner who has demonstrated the ability and the intent to repay financing of this nature, and really feel that we have an opportunity here to revitalize the neighborhood and bring golf back into the city, and would urge your support in getting this finalized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collar. We appreciate your advocacy on this matter. Welcome, Mr. Duquette.
Hello, for the record, Robert Duquette, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace. Again, I want to thank, first of all of the members of the council for supporting the Boca Raton Championship. I think I saw most of you there. It was a very well attended and very well organized event, and it showed the world, if not especially our area, the importance of golf to the city of Boca Raton and our image. And so I respectfully request that you approve this financing so that we can continue with the progress that we've been making over the last year and a half. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duquette. It's been a pleasure. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else present who would like to come forward and address the City Council on this matter? Seeing no one else come forward, we'll close the public hearing. And at this time, members, we have to vote separately on each of these matters. So the first item that we'll take up is ordinance 5441. Members, what's your pleasure?
I move we adopt ordinance number 5441.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion by Mr. Singer, a second by Mr. Weinroth. Is there any further discussion?
Just one comment, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Weinroth.
As many of you know, I'm going to be leaving the council pretty soon, at the end of March. I think this is going to be one of the votes that I'm going to remember. I'm hoping that the residents remember this as this council's position on open space. There's been a lot of development that's in the 4 years I've been up here, and some people have felt that that was going too fast. Some people think that, and I feel personally, that what we've done in our downtown is really good, and we've made a very vibrant downtown. But I dare say 10 years from now, Very few people remember what buildings we put up, but they will remember that we kept this space open and available to our residents. And I think I'm happy that this is one of my last votes on this council, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Singer.
I'll just recap again, because I don't know who's been following this long discussion over the last year and a half, but this is the final step to what was a long-standing set of negotiations, really, between us and the Beach and Park District. The net result is, hopefully, when the sale of the Western Golf Course closes, $65 million or more to the city coffers, a golf course renovated within the city limits, an 18-hole course for the first time ever, public course, and a great opportunity for the residents of Boca Raton. So this financing is the vehicle to make all of those other transactions work, and we'll look forward to proceeding. This was the best of the different alternatives presented to us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or discussion? Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm super excited about golf in Boca. I have extreme hesitation on the price, and I made my point clear on that before. I think we're paying somewhere between 8 and 12 million too high. If you look at the valuation, the assessment that came in, it's not there, but there's certainly worse things that you could spend money on than a lot of open space in Boca, and I concede that. If you look at the opportunity costs and what that difference money could be, I mean, we could be looking at an MPA roof, we could be looking at acquiring Hidden Valley, investment in the course once we have it, acquiring beach parcels that they've been trying to build mansions on. I have floated several other options, things like put it to a public referendum, which could have been done, the city buying it with the money from the Western Golf Course. A lot of people have said, you're getting the money from the Western Golf Course, you should put it on this. That's not what we're voting on. This is Beach and Parks, basically Beach and Parks contract, and we're just voting to float the bond for it. And then, the third option is to partner with Beach and Parks and negotiate a fiscally responsible deal and work with them. So regardless of how this moves forward, I look forward to working with them. I have heard from many residents in this. I've heard from dozens of residents, most of them who have been for it, live up and down 2nd Avenue or on the area there. And I've heard from many other residents who don't live there who are also for it, but have said the price is just a little bit too much. It's a little high. So in conclusion, I think it's great to have these types of problems. It's a lot of open space we're bringing in the city. There are worse things we could be doing. Whether it passes or fails today, I look forward to partnering with the Beach and Parks there. I thank Commissioner Ernst for coming out here today. I do appreciate that, and Mr. Haar for speaking, as well as Mr. Collar and Mr. Duquette. At this time, I cannot support a bond at this value. I certainly will support the resolution on who we're awarding the bond if this does pass. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers, and I'll just state that this is an amazing opportunity for our community. We've been down a rather long, maybe a winding road to come to this point. I certainly appreciate the residents in the area and all of their vocal support. I certainly appreciate the partnership with the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District. Those of you that did attend the Boca Raton Championship tournament over this weekend, there's a beautiful opportunity, and to see the Boca Raton and the Greater Boca Raton Beach and Park District come together and create something special, and to see how special golf was in Boca and how amazing we looked on the Golf Channel. And so I see this as excuse me, an amazing opportunity for us to have world-class golf in Boca Raton, as well as truly honor the Boca Chica community and bring it back to its original luster when it was first built in the early 60s. So you certainly have my full support. And if there's no further discussion at this time, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll on ordinance 5441?
Mr. Rogers?
No.
Ms. Haney?
Yes.
Mr. Weinroth?
Yes.
And Mr. Singer?
Yes.
The motion passes 3 votes to 1.
Thank you very much. We will now take up ordinance 5442. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second its adoption.
Motion by Weinroth, second by Singer, to adopt ordinance 5442. If there's no further discussion, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll?
Haney?
Yes.
Singer?
Yes.
Rogers?
No.
Weinroth?
Yes.
Motion passes 3 votes to 1.
Thank you very much. We will now take up resolution 15-2018. Is there a motion?
I move we adopt it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Singer, second by Weinroth, to adopt resolution 15-2018. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll?
Rogers?
Yes.
Singer,
Yes.
Weinroth,
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
Motion passes 4 votes to 0.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate all your support. So now we will move forward to our next item, which is ordinance 5443. That has nothing to do with golf. And at this time, I will wait a minute while the room clears. And Ms. O'Rourke returns. And at this time, I would like to ask Ms. Saxton to please read the title of Ordinance 5443.
Ordinance 5443, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton amending the Boca Raton Downtown Development of Regional Impact, DDRI, Development Order to allow roof overhangs, eaves, gutters, balconies, and decorative architectural features to encroach into required setbacks of buildings from rights-of-way lines. Affirming that the amendments do not require the filing of a notice of proposed change to the DDRI, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Arnell.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the council. Mr. Shad, your Development Services Director, will make the presentation this evening regarding Ordinance 5443. It's your agenda item number 12E.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Shad.
Good evening, Brandon Shad, Development Services Director. Again, this is the Downtown Setback Encroachment Ordinance, the purpose of which is to allow roof overhangs, eaves, gutters, balconies, and decorative architectural features to encroach into the required setbacks of buildings from rights-of-way lines in the downtown. We went over the background a bit yesterday. I won't repeat it now. We believe that a specific allowance for the encroachment of design elements will encourage their use, resulting in greater architectural articulation along the street edge. And I'm just going to go through the graphics a bit again. Again, the required setback from a street in the downtown is 6 feet, up to 30 feet high, and we would allow roof overhangs and so on, 36 inches encroachment, a 12-inch encroachment for architectural features into that same setback. And for buildings, the portion of which is over 30 feet in height, we would allow a 48-inch or 4-foot balcony encroachment only for that portion of the building, again, over 30 feet, where the setback for that portion of the building is 20 feet. Go back to the recommendation. So the Downtown Advisory Committee recommended last Wednesday that for buildings that are over 50 feet high, that the encroachments at the roof line be increased to 48 inches instead of 36 inches. And that is to match the 48-inch balcony encroachment. At the February 8th Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the board recommended approval with that amendment, and at yesterday's CRA meeting, the CRA recommended approval again with that amendment. Therefore, you've received a passed out revision to the ordinance today that substantially does that same thing, but in a slightly different format than was recommended by those bodies. Staff does recommend approval, including that amendment, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. Members, questions for Mr. Shad on this item? Mr.
Madam Chair.
Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Shad. We had, and again, I feel like I'm recapping a lot of things for anyone joining in the programming now, but we recommended unanimously as the CRA yesterday that we adopt this. Mr. Shad, could you just give a brief summary of these points, the fact that other cities use this, the fact that we might have been doing this for some time, and your thoughts on why this is a good thing?
Sure. Allowing encroachments into required setbacks for things that don't add actual livable space or building volume is a common strategy. And I'll kind of go into the third point about why it's a good idea. It's common to come up to the required setback because maximizing living space, profitability, and so on. So to allow those elements to encroach further into that setback means that they're more likely to be used. They're more likely to do that than to voluntarily move the building back to meet the setback with those elements. So you're more likely to get better architecture, essentially. There was one more point you wanted me to make.
The fact that we have some buildings that seem to administratively for years seem to have been including, you know, what we're talking about, less than 12 inches, or I don't know if you're ruler, but 12 inches of architectural decorations.
Sir, we do know that there have been some buildings approved in the downtown that seem to have encroached into these required setbacks with these elements, balconies, as well as architectural features. It's been said that maybe the ordinance wasn't enforced consistently over the years. And we feel this is a cleanup type of thing that will make the rules clear. Everybody knows what they are, and we can move forward on that basis.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further comments, Ms. O'Rourke?
Yes, I have a few pictures that I showed yesterday that I think we have on there. People mentioned that it was very helpful to visually see what we're talking about in some cases. Just give them 1 second to pull this up. So while we're doing that, I'll just say that I recommended this as well, and I do think that it will add to the beauty of our buildings, which I think as of recently have been missing. Really, we've gotten some very bland architecture at in the downtown, and particularly at the Landmark Building at the entrance to our city. There's minimal articulation. Let's just bring these pictures up. So there we go. So this. No offense to any architecture. I understand they're maximizing space. We're going according to code, but I think enhancing the architecture, having balconies, having some architectural elements at a level that is not at human scale, higher up, will really make the buildings more decorative. You can forward through it. I don't have them. So you can see this is the garage, the back of the Mark. When this was first built, they said, don't worry about it. You're not going to see it once the Hyatt is built, which, as I said yesterday, is not really a way to approach architecture. I don't think it should be beautiful no matter how we see it. However, we do still see it. This is since the Hyatt is built, and we see the garage. And this is just not the way our downtown buildings should look. It's not the best we can do. We can do better. So I think when you see this, we have a little bit of articulation at top, but there's just not enough going on here. So what I will ask, in the future, as we go through the approval process with buildings in the future, we're giving to the developers, we're giving to the landowners and the architects. I'd like to see them give back as well. So sometimes instead of encroaching, we can go in also. So let's work together to have some beautiful articulation in our buildings in the downtown. And I just think seeing this, really shows the picture of why we need to address architectural elements.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think we all agree that having the articulation and the elements and the projections will provide us with the more attractive type of buildings that we're trying to attain. So I think this is a really positive ordinance, and if there's no further discussion at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to come forward and address the City Council on this matter? Mr. Caicedo? Oh, come on. Come on forward. Give us your name and address, and you can have 5 minutes.
Juan Caicedo, 14 Southeast 4th Street, Boca Raton, Florida. I had actually a small presentation that I was going to show you guys, but I don't think it's worth it. I think that what staff has done with this ordinance and what you guys are about to approve is a great improvement to our downtown. I agree with Ms. O'Rourke. Some of the buildings actually deserve better. And this ordinance would encourage developers as well as architects to use more elements in their ingredients to articulate. She used one of my projects, and I agree. And so I think that is a good example of why we need these type of things.
I'm sure you wish you had these tools when you were doing that, but you didn't. Right?
And so I take it well, and I think that this ordinance, what I was going to present to you is, and I did it to Planning and Zoning Board, was that I thought that this issue of the balcony encroachments at a lower level would also benefit the downtown. And I actually, in the Planning and Zoning meeting, I showed how important it was to actually have balconies at lower elevations to connect the pedestrian with the actual user of the building at a lower elevation. But I can understand why staff is concerned about it. The open space is actually in the 4035 is limited to the first setback is 6 feet. So by encroaching into it, you start really affecting the open space. So that's, I think, why some of the concerns are from staff in adding more elements to that first layer of setbacks. So that's why I don't want to even present the stuff that I had. But I appreciate you guys looking into it. I think Brandon and his staff did a great job on it, and I'm looking forward to having more ingredients to prepare better food.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Casado.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else present who would like to come forward and address the city council on this matter? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing. And Ms. Freezer, you have turned on your mic, so what can you
I'm
tell
sorry,
us?
but I just wanted to make sure, I was aware that there was a revision that Mr. Shad was going to propose. Did you read that into the record and I missed it?
I mentioned them and I pointed out they were passed out.
Okay, so what was distributed is on the bottom of page 5 and on top of 6. It is a little difficult to see because the shading is very light, but it's the language that starts on page 23. I'm just going to read it into the record.
Okay.
And the language is, where the building is up to 50 feet in height and may encroach up to 48 inches into a required setback from a right-of-way line where the building is greater than 50 feet in height. So that's right in the center, and it ends on line 1 on page 6. So I believe staff is recommending it to you as amended.
All right, very good.
Madam
So at
Chair?
this time, Mr. Singer.
Thank you. I actually have a question for the city attorney. So I'm looking at this language on F. Could you walk me through how this F, the proposed amendment I think made clear that you couldn't have any encroachments if you were below 50 feet? Is that reflected in your opinion here in F the same way?
It's interesting because I don't know the source of yours, but I asked a similar question of Mr. Shad just a few hours ago, and what he pointed out to me is that under subsection F, if you read the second half of subsection F, it's limited to those architectural features that are at the top of the building. They have to either be located where the exterior building terminates at the roof line, where the roof line overhangs the exterior building wall, or where it's fixed beneath the roof line. And then H, I'm sorry, is it G and H, Mr. Shad, that has the additional?
G, yes.
Yeah, G is the one that would be things that are not up at so F is really at the top of the building.
I see.
But
And other than that, I defer to Mr. Shad. I just happened to have asked a similar question, so that's what I
Okay.
knew.
So what I'm reading is, if you're under 50 feet, the overhangs, eaves, gutters, and features only at the top, up to the 50 feet, can be 36 inches out. If you're over 50 feet, they could be 48 inches, but in any case, they all have to be at the roof line.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, further comments or questions? Seeing none, Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I mean, we can move it and still have the questions, but what about the bump? So just that last question threw me a little bit. Are we still allowed to have projection? You had a bump, the bumps are still allowed?
Correct. They're covered in G, which allows for 12 inches.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
You gotta have
Moved
those
as
bump
amended.
outs. All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so a motion by Mr. Weinroth, a second by Mr. Rogers to adopt ordinance 5443 as amended. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm very happy to see this moving forward. I think Councilwoman O'Rourke gave two great examples that I certainly had in mind when this came forward on areas that can be improved with design elements like this. I don't think anyone faults architects and builders for maximizing their profit by going to the lines that they can within the law. This allows them to really not make it be a flat surface once they do that. So I look forward to even more architectural elements and design features being brought to our future land use. Thank you.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Saxton, will you please call the roll on ordinance 5443 as amended?
O'Rourke?
Yes.
Weinroth?
Yes.
Haney?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Singer?
Yes.
Motion passes 5 votes to 0.
Very good. We have no regular public hearings or settlements, so we'll move directly to introduction of ordinances. We have deleted ordinance 5444 and ordinance 5445, so we will move directly to ordinance 5446. Ms. Saxton, will you please read the title?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Ordinance 5446, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a non-exclusive construction and demolition, C&D, debris collection, and disposal services franchise agreement with Waste Pro of Florida Incorporated, pursuant to to Section 1421 Code of Ordinances, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. And who would like to introduce ordinance 5446?
Madam Chair, I will introduce ordinance 5446.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Ms. Saxton, will you please read the title of ordinance 5447?
Ordinance 5447, an ordinance of the City of Boca Raton authorizing a First Amendment to the Agreement for Purchase and Sale dated November 27, 2017, by and between the City of Boca Raton and GL Acquisitions Corporation for the purchase and sale of the City of Boca Raton Municipal Golf Course West, as authorized by Ordinance 5410. Authorizing the conveyance of approximately 3.91 acres of additional golf course lands, previously treated as an adjacent Lake Worth Drainage District easement, and a potential additional payment as provided in the amendment. Authorizing the release of phosphate, mineral, metal, and petroleum rights reserved to the city pursuant to Section 270.11 Florida statutes. Affirming the cooperation of the parties with regard to the city's communication facilities located adjacent to the golf course, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date.
Thank you very much. And who would like to introduce ordinance?
Staff is recommending that the ordinance before you that was distributed as revised be the one that's introduced.
Oh, does it have a
And
different title?
I
It
will
does have a
reread the
different title.
title. My apologies.
Okay. So now we're going to hear ordinance 5447 as revised title.
I am sorry.
That's okay. Susan.
Yeah, I've got it. All right, starting again. 5447, ordinance of the City of Boca Raton authorizing a First Amendment to the Agreement for Purchase and Sale dated November 27, 2017, by and between the City of Boca Raton and GL Acquisitions Corporation for the purchase and sale of the City of Boca Raton Municipal Golf Course West, as authorized by ordinance number 5410, authorizing the conveyance of approximately 3.91 acres of additional golf course lands previously treated as an adjacent Lake Worth Drainage District easement, and a potential additional payment as provided in the amendment, authorizing extension of the inspection period, authorizing the release of phosphate, mineral, metal, and petroleum rights reserved to the city pursuant to Section 270.11 Florida statutes, providing for severability, providing for repeal, or providing an effective date. And again, my apologies for my
No
error.
problem. So who would like to introduce ordinance 5447 as revised?
Madam Mayor, I will introduce ordinance 5447 as revised.
Thank you very much, Ms. O'Rourke. That concludes our introduction of ordinances. So we'll now move directly to public requests. I have a few cards. Rob Bethune, please come forward, followed by Tanyel Shant. Welcome.
Good evening. Oh, thank you. Rob Berthium, 7666 Fairway Trail, Boca. I want to speak about the Boca Royale proposal. I know that ordinance reading has been pulled from the agenda for tonight. That's to the great disappointment of all the residents in the area. We had hoped that this matter would be resolved once and for all. We feel that the developer has treated us the same way that he's treated you in how he pulled the proposal and things like that. It's been disorganized, and the way he's treated us has been the same way. We don't want that area rezoned. I think I speak for the vast majority of residents in that area. They don't want that area rezoned. I refer you to Mr. Weinroth's speech just a few minutes ago about the Ocean Breeze land. That's green space, and we're going to be very proud of ourselves 10, 15, 20 years from now if we retain this piece of land. It's probably the last big block of land in North Boca that can be turned into something special. Now, the developer does not yet own the land. The original owner still owns the land. I understand he has an option on the land, but we would like you to keep it zoned as it is as a first step, but negotiate aggressively with the owner to see if perhaps there's a possibility of the city obtaining this land. There's all sorts of problems with his development. I urge you to read through the notes, the same notes that were provided to the Zoning and Planning Committee. When I started reading through that, I was shocked. Just all the deviations and exceptions and variances that he was asking for, it was amazing. The Zoning and Planning turned it down 5 parts to it. They turned it down 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, and 5-0. It was the same member that voted the 1 each time. So it was almost unanimous. There's all sorts of problems with it. Traffic and schools all come into it. There's ecological issues, the whole thing. and just picture what it could be. So we are very anxious for this to get on the agenda. The next time it comes up, I hope that you refer to those notes and read them over in detail. They have a lot of information, and it really gives you a good idea of what this proposal is all about. Now, the developer has offered to have an informational meeting for us. Many of the residents feel, myself included, that it's simply another opportunity for him to try to manipulate us. He did that with his previous meeting. He presented he asked us, he said, if you want information, please sign this sheet. And then he presented that to zoning and planning as evidence that we all approved of his proposal, which was completely untrue. So we're concerned about why he's having this meeting when it would have come 3 days before you would have voted on his proposal. It's very suspicious timing to us, and we're going to look at it very skeptically when we do get to the meeting with him. I've forwarded all of you the information, the invitation, and what he's proposing, and he's offered 4 choices, 4 scenarios as he describes it. They all require rezoning, except for, I believe, one of them, and that would be, well, even that one required rezoning. It was a city park, but with a large athletic facility, a public use one, such as the YMCA or something like that. So each and every one of them would have required rezoning, even the one with only 27 homes on it, in theory. So we'd ask that you consider all these matters should it come up again, and we are very anxious to get this resolved. It's been 12 years now since the golf course closed down. By some people's count, this is the 6th attempt at developing that golf course. It's been turned down 5 times, to the best of my knowledge, 5 times, with good reason. It's time to resolve it once and for all so that we're not back here every 2 years fighting with everybody, the developer, and arguing with city council saying, why don't we do something about this? It really is a good time to resolve this matter, particularly with the money coming in from the Western Golf Course. Recreational money comes in from selling recreational property. It should be used for recreational purposes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Tanya
Please
Shan?
make sure that you have the neighbors come out to this meeting on the 24th. It's okay.
All
You
right.
don't,
No,
you don't
that's
have to go
okay.
back
That's
to the
okay.
microphone. Okay.
All right.
Can I just ask quick, Madam Mayor, before
Yes.
Mr. Shand speaks?
Yes.
Thank you. City Attorney, because we put this off, does it have to start all over again? I know this was a quasi-judicial issue. Does that mean it'll have to go back to P&Z before it's going to come back to us, or how's that going to work?
Not necessarily. It depends on, to the extent, the fact that it was put off at this meeting does not mean that it would have to go back to P&Z simply to come back on for intro and public hearing. It depends on what the submittal is. To the extent, as I understood it, the applicant was asking for delay because they were proposing amendments to their plan. That's the question that staff will be considering in deciding whether it goes back to P&Z.
Okay, so
or
the
not.
amendments would trigger possibly,
Depending on, sometimes there's very minor amendments,
Right.
which the council certainly considers and deliberates as part of its approval. So I would defer to staff. It really depends on the scope of the
Okay, I was
amendment
just
that-
trying to
that
figure
comes
out the
through.
timing.
So I think your
Thank you.
statement of the amendments could
Depends.
possibly send it back to P and Z to
It
start
may.
that process over.
okay, thank you,
Possibly.
Mayor.
It absolutely may.
May or possibly.
Possibly.
Possibly may.
And it might not.
Mr. Shant, welcome.
Hi,
Hi, give us your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Tanyel Shant, 20214 Ocean Key Drive, Boca Raton. Here for a couple of reasons. One is to welcome you all to our St. David Armenian Church Art and Food Festival this weekend at St. David Armenian Church at 2300 Yamato Road. Me and my family have been founding members of the church since 1988 when it was built and consecrated the year after, and we enjoy our annual festivals. I know Councilman Rogers was there last year, and I hope many of you will come and join us for some delicious food, shish kebabs and baklava and a whole bunch of other pastries, and enjoy yourselves this weekend. It's on Saturday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on Sunday from 12:30 p.m. following our service till 10 p.m. on Sunday. The second reason why I'm here is I am on the host committee for the 211 annual gala. For those of you who may not know what 211 is, I'll just be specific here and read you their mission statement.
Well, the good news is we awarded them with a proclamation yesterday afternoon.
Yesterday? Okay. I've seen them going around. I was actually in Lake Worth when they had a proclamation there as well, and their brochures are outside. And they're a 501c3 nonprofit, and they do a lot of work to help people with crisis intervention, suicide prevention. They actually gained a lot of notoriety during the opioid crisis, which we're still in the middle of. And you may or may not know this, but here in Palm Beach County, there was 604 drug-related overdose deaths, which is more deaths in Palm Beach County because of drug overdoses than there were gun violence deaths in Chicago last year. So this is an epidemic of mass proportion. And I know that our state attorney, Dave Ehrenberg, and our state representative, Bill Hager, and others have done a lot of tremendous work to combat that, but we still need a federal response. But right here in our community, we have 211. And so I have invitations for you guys to come out to our gala on March 9th in Palm Beach, and I hope you will come. It's for a good cause, and I hope you will be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shant. Appreciate it. Mr. Folden, come on down. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I am Gene Folden. And yesterday, while I was here, I wasn't here, but I was watching, you all spoke about the steps over at the Wildflower property, which lead down to the water. And here are those steps. And here is a photo of what those steps look like, in fact, today. I know that they look very inviting. And for example, this fella here is saying, "Oh, look, steps to the water. I think I'll take advantage of this. This looks great." Well, this fella, next thing you know, he's looking like this. And then he has nothing to do but watch TV since he's in the hospital. And so what's he see there? But this. And what's he thinking here? You betcha. So he's somewhat distraught and pondering the concept, looks outside his window, and what does he see there? Which merely reinforces this. Well, I think you get the idea of kind of where I'm going with this and what I'm trying to relay here. And so I would ask that you give serious thought to this when you're considering the steps over at the Wildflower property. And I do believe there are some options available that will keep you on the safe side. Anyway, that is my story, and I'm sticking to it, and I thank you.
Mr. Folden, I will say that Ms. Bastiga yesterday did mention putting railing there to make it safe.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Okay, well, I just want to, Mr. Singer?
Mr. Folden, what are some of the suggestions you have to increase
Well,
safety?
let me go back if I can here, Mark, thank you. I mean, you put up a sign, which I don't think is going to really keep you on the safe side here. But if you look at the steps, I think she was mentioning about putting up the seawall. And you said, well, should we, put the seawall up and take out the steps? I think you could actually, when I was over there, this picture was taken today, if you put up the seawall and just kept the first two steps, you could make seats out of them so that they basically, you get away with the moss and everything, the water, and you basically just could use it as a seat, if you would, for people who want to, and you can put up a sign if you want of what those were, as to watch the intercoastal there.
Okay.
Okay.
And so, but you're saying don't put any steps because do you think there's any, with your knowledge, do you think there's any way to get a walkable entry down to the water level?
No, I don't think so. You have about 30-some feet of steps. If you look at the slime there, and you saw the guy walking down the steps, I think there's a definite liability factor involved here.
Well, thank you for your presentation. I am glad that in Boca Raton we don't allow advertising on bus signs because then we don't have ads like that, and that helps mitigate risk too. So thank you.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, so I appreciate the suggestion. The steps look cool, but as someone like young kids, and my wife, she's like, the first thing kids do is they go to the steps, they go to the water. I don't know if this is spot. It's something we should probably give some thought, but I don't know that we want people going into the water at this spot. We want it to be an active site. We want people to be there. We want them hanging out. I don't see it as a drop-in point. I don't think people are going to be going down with their kayaks down these steps. So I would certainly advise that the city advises EDSA to rethink this, get some more opinions on it. I would like to see steps, to Mr. Fulton's point, kind of where the beginning of those steps are probably a little bit higher and going much more farther along. That's the kind of concept of you could sit down, look out over the water, people could walk in front of it. I'd be for flattening this out and make it a walkway and just go with a steady seawall. But I think we'll probably have more time to talk about it either tonight or another time.
And no, we appreciate Mr. Fulton coming forward and, bringing the reality of the moss to our attention. However, I think between EDSA and us, and we can figure out a way to, not only preserve the quasi-historic nature of those steps, but also, make it a safe and secure area for people to come. So,
Madam Mayor?
Ms. O'Rourke.
Yeah, I will echo what you just said. I think that between our consultants and our staff, we can probably figure something out. And that type of sign that you showed, that was a cautionary sign, we have one of those on Palmetto Park Road that tells us we're going to get a fine if we walk across the street in a spot where everybody walks across the street. I would love to see a sign that the sign could almost be a nod to our history, and I think we could, have an idea of the steps there without having the danger. So we're in a conceptual stage, and I think we can work it out, but I do think we should nod to the semi-historical value of what we have here.
You could put a glass or plastic over top and let them walk over it, and like they do up at the Grand Canyon, and look down.
We'll be slipping and sliding over that too. All right. Well, you've provided us with food for thought, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much. This is public requests. That concludes my cards. Is there anyone else present who would like to address the City Council on any matter? Welcome. Please give us your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
My name is Ross Donahue. I live at 7644 Fairway Trail in Boca Raton. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here with my neighbor, Rob Berthium, and represent a large group of Hidden Valley members, actually in the process of forming an official HOA with them. We have a Facebook site and email groups and our friends at Boca Chica, and kind of getting a large organization together. And really what I want to emphasize to you is that we did have a very, very large showing at the P&Z meeting, and we plan to have that again at the Saturday group, and again at if and when this presents again to the council. And really the main thing, Rob covered a lot of my exact points, and the thing I really want to ask you when this comes up again is please represent us. I know at least every single person, I have yet to meet a single person in our neighborhood or in our area that supports this project. And that's really what we're asking of you. I think when this land if and when this land was to be rezoned, we lose it. We can't get it back, and I really appreciated the council members' words today, that this is the kind of things that people will remember in 10 years. And no one is against development. It's just thoughtful development. We're a balanced development. So we have had a lot of development in our area with Royal Poinciana. There's going to be an expansion on Hidden Valley Boulevard already, right over across at Clintmore and Congress, on Federal and the Wick Theater. We've had a lot of development in our area with no added recreation or green space. So there has not been a balanced growth in our area. We're not anti-growth. We're just saying balanced, thoughtful, smart growth. The first things first is to please shoot this down. It is hard for me to feel the amount of effort that we've had to put in to just keep what is. It doesn't feel like the developer is having to put in all this effort and show up at these meetings. He's not here tonight. I have a 5-month-old child that I had to get sitting for to be here, to fight for, just to keep what's already correctly zoned. And that's all we're asking. Don't change anything. Then we can figure out what's next. Then hopefully we can use some of the $65 million from the sale of Boca Municipal to do something. I don't know what the correct answer, if that is, if we extend the Ocean Breeze golf course into that and use it what it's already designed for. If we make it a passive park, if we make it an active park, if we have to be thoughtful in how we address the traffic issues, all the different things, but I have the utmost trust and faith in you all to be able to figure that out. It's not that hard. The other thing is just I was kind of inspired by some of the proposed board members' personal stories. So I figured since Rob so eloquently covered so many of our talking points, was just to share some of mine. is I'm a Florida born and raised, went to college actually right after 9/11, joined the United States Navy. I'm an Iraq War veteran. I came back, I used the GI Bill and went back to school. I now have achieved 2 master's degrees, one at FAU. Recently got married a couple years ago, and about a year and a half ago, we found out that we were pregnant and moved into Hidden Valley. Since that time, I immediately moved in and got involved in the school rezoning issue, which I appreciate you taking on as a big task. So right after moving in and finding out we were pregnant, we were very scared that we were going to get kicked out of Calusa. Fought that fight. It's still a nerve-wracking experience because it's not fully resolved. And then we turned around and found out that, oh, by the way, the golf course behind you is probably going to go away. And there's going to be development and more traffic and all of this. So now we've been fighting that fight. And I think that's what we're asking you for, is not only to shut down this rezoning. And I want to emphasize that. We're not asking for anything. Just don't rezone it. It's zoned correctly. You got it right. It's right now. Don't do anything different with it. Is keep it what it is and find a thoughtful long-term solution to this. We're tired. The community's tired. As I walk through the neighborhood and I get numbers and I get emails and we put groups together, the constant message that I hear from everybody is, I thought this was done. I thought this got resolved. I thought we shot this down. And everyone's just tired. We want a long-term solution to protect our area. We want to work with our friends at Boca Chica. We want to keep our kids in the Boca schools that we pay our good taxes for, etc. So the main thing I just want to ask for you is remember stories like mine. Our neighborhood is filled with them. And please just represent us. You're elected officials, and that's what you're supposed to do. And I have no doubt that collectively you can find a solid solution for us to be very pleased with our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue, and we want what you want, so
Thank you.
go enjoy your family tonight. This is public request. Is there anyone else present who would like to address the city council on any matter? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close that portion. We have no resolutions or other business, nor do we have quasi-judicial public hearings, variances, or appeals, so we will move directly to city manager recommendations and reports. Mr. Arnell.
Thank you, Chairman. I have no reports this evening.
Thank you very much. Ms. Freezer, city
Thank
attorney report.
I have no report at this time. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to council member reports. We'll start with Mr. Weinroth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very quickly, there's a piece of paper on your desk this evening when you showed up for this meeting. It was an article that was in the Sun Sentinel today. Coincidentally, after the conversation we had yesterday about the Israel bonds, Florida has boosted its holdings to $50 million. I also noted tonight when we approved the bonding that it was at a rate of 2.64 and the Israel bond 2-year rate is 2.77. So that was just interesting. I just bring that to your attention. This is something that we should leave to our professional staff to make decisions on the investment policy and where they're going to put our money, but I certainly just wanted to bring this forward. Again, I think that this was a wonderful meeting tonight as far as what we've been able to accomplish with the golf course, and I think it's going to be wonderful in a few years if we can put the championship on our own golf course, and again, it's going to be a reason for people to continue to see Boca Raton as a place to live, work, learn, and play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Singer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two quick reports. First, I'm pleased to report I'm now serving on the Independent Sales Tax Oversight Committee as an alternate member from the League of Cities. That's of the school district. On Friday, we had one of the quarterly meetings. Everything is on track in terms of the plans still for Verde and Addison Meisner. And I'm very pleased to report that thanks to the hard work of everyone in this room and our moving forward with a resolution to support 05C, that new elementary school in Boca Raton, the school district has already gone out for RFP. They went out last Friday for designers for that project. So they are moving with great speed on that, and I think that's a great sign for all of us. I'd like to see that continue and get that across the finish line. We all received an email for those who are wondering about Brightline and the completion of the quiet zones. We've talked about this. This is something outside of our control, but the latest update from the TPA, of which our mayor is chair, is that they are on track to complete those supplemental safety barriers by March, and hopefully quiet zooms will follow soon after. So thank you to the TPA, thank you, Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Weinroth, for your service there, and they'll continue their advocacy so we can get quiet zones. Thanks.
Great.
Mr.
Very
Singer,
good.
I have a question for you about that, the sales tax. The 1 cent sales tax, my understanding was that the money coming in from that was really going to go for capital improvements of the schools and the facilities?
It is.
Okay.
But I'm sorry, maybe I was unclear, but please
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, I wanted an answer on that, if you could.
It is,
give me some
but
clarity.
so there's a plan that the district puts together, and that's where the Addison, Meisner, and Verde funds are coming from that school, from that sales tax revenue. But every time there's a meeting, there's an opportunity for a change. At the prior meeting, the recommendations of the committee, or a prior meeting, were that those schools remain 2 of the first 7 rebuilt with sales tax dollars. They continue to be there, so those are still moving on track. Granted, now the school district is looking at location, but the funds are still there. The important thing is having the funds allocated, as we learned last meeting, that there were funds for 05C, we found a home for it.
Mr. O'Rourke, although I believe that those dollars can also be used for technology upgrades as well as vehicles. I've seen some other, so it's not just buildings in their
Okay.
capital improvements.
Well, the reason I said that is I recently went to Boca High, and we're A-rated schools, and we're struggling. We're worried about it because of the overcapacity. But I think that our ratings are good because our teachers are good, our programs are good, but our facilities are not great. And when I took a look at Boca High close up, that school needs a paint job so badly.
Believe me, I've been complaining about that for the last 3 years,
It
and they
is
just don't have
unsightly.
it's
Yeah,
unsightly.
It's really unsightly. From the inside in the
No, I agree with you.
quadrangle area, and that's what we called it when I went to high school, and the outside. It's just awful.
If that were not owned by the school district, our code enforcement would be all over them for
Absolutely.
code violations for appearance.
Yeah,
Truly.
absolutely. So
No argument there. There are other Boca schools that are getting funding, and as pretty much almost every school is getting funding. But the good news is, at least of the 2 big ones, those are still on track, getting another one, and we'll keep looking
okay, well,
for
just
more money. Thank you.
remind them, paint. It really looks bad.
I think we all will. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think a couple of us said this before. We do have A-rated schools, and that's a large testament to, I think, the families, the teachers, but we do need some A-rated facilities to go along with that school rating and education they're getting. I want to thank Mr. Donahue for speaking. Hoo-yah, shipmate, appreciated. And I think you brought up a good point. I want to just emphasize a little bit more. Last year, we had an issue, and we all went to bat on it, and that was to keep Boca kids in Boca schools. We all spoke to our school board commissioner, mayor. I think you went to several meetings on it, and we are out there fighting in every way we can. And now this year, we've Mr. Singer's taken lead, and we've all been very much behind getting a new school here. So I know there's some talk to the contrary, and it's not always easy, but we are really doing our best in this. And those are 2 big wins. If you look at that, keeping those kids here in Boca, that's hard to get across to a county board that doesn't look at things at a city boundary level, and then to jump ahead of basically everyone else to get this score. I know it's not quite official, but it's pretty close. I'm just really happy on what's been accomplished there, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. O'Rourke.
Yes, of course, I have a few things. So first of all, I complained about Comcast and our
finally got
Channel
fixed.
20, and I have to tell you, it is crystal clear. So make sure your makeup's on and you look good, because the picture's coming through beautifully. So thank you, Comcast. Thank you to our audio video department for getting that done. I also am thrilled about preserving the green space in Boca and maintaining balance with development and keeping open space, and we look forward to working more on that. I also wanted to comment on our board applications tonight. I mean, we went through a period here where we couldn't get people to apply to boards. We actually dissolved boards because we couldn't get enough people to serve. And the amount of people, so obviously education and culture are things that our community really, really care about. For them to come out with such qualified people and so many people to want to, to serve the community in a volunteer way, I just think is amazing. So these are boards and advisory capacity that's really needed, and I thank the public for showing up and offering their services to us. I think it was a great showing. And I will also continue to ask about I would like quarterly meetings with the Beach and Parks District. I know we have one set coming up in February, but I will continue to ask for us to have an annual plan of quarterly meetings with Beach and Parks District, so we don't have to do it on the fly. We all have it in our calendars, work around it. If you can make it, you can. If you can't, you can't, but it'll be on our calendars, and I'd like to have those dates at some point soon addressed. Also, I would like to mention that, and it's appropriate with our new Art in Public Places. One of the applicants that did get on the board is the owner of the Flamingo House, and it's not a city thing, but check out the flamingohouse.com. They're having an art walk this Saturday night. They've done it before. I predict this will be our arts district, our little Wynwood Boca, whatever we want to call it, the Flamingo Boca. It's a warehouse district, and they have a very innovative space there, very arty, very gritty. There's a lot of blank walls on the sides of the warehouses, and I really see a future there of being an arts district in our area. And so check that out. It's an exciting little thing that's happening that I think most people in the area don't know about. And I think with that, everything else I mentioned yesterday. So thank you. And I can't believe we're out just a little after 8 o'clock.
Oh, well, I haven't started yet. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, on the same topic of art in public places, we have some around town already, and this was a budget amendment that we all chose. Here is our first utility box that is covered to look like a bougainvillea in the middle of Palmetto Park Road. It's very attractive, and hopefully to see a lot of those more around town as we conclude. Thank you, Mark. Just a couple of items to share. Again, those of you that don't watch golf, the Boca Raton Championship was this weekend. Mark Calcavecchia is our champion for this year, and it was a great opportunity for Boca Raton to look great on the Golf Channel, and we were really pleased about that. And another upcoming item that we've all been waiting for many years, on February 28th, we're going to cut the ribbon for the Spanish River I-95 interchange, and we hope to get that fully opened, and it's going to have a very positive impact on our traffic circulation within our entire city. So if there is no further business to come before this council, we are adjourned at 8:09. Thank you all so much.